I was dating somebody, and things were going really, really well, and so well that I was like, you know what, I got to propose to this girl. So I went ahead and proposed to her, and things were great. We were getting ready for the wedding, and everything was great until it wasn't good. Well, everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Out of the Shallows.
Out of the Shallows. We finally did it.
Yes, this is, we finally are doing this. This is a project, folks, that actually Maddie and I would say it's a passion project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that we're like, hey, well, let's just do this. I think actually a lot of people would really enjoy a podcast that followed what we want to do. I mean, I don't want to give it away. Like,
I feel like you're
within
trying to
2
tease
seconds
it
in.
without teasing
Yeah, you know
it.
what? I am teasing it. No, this is a very exciting thing, and so excited for this podcast. But before we even get into that, people are probably wondering, okay, who's this guy? Who's this girl who's also talking? And if you could see her on YouTube right now or wherever you're watching, gosh, who is this beautiful woman? Well, anyways, I'll just throw it to you first, Maddie. So why don't you go right ahead and introduce yourself? Please go for it. Wherever you want to start.
First one. All right, jumping in. Okay, well, g'day. I feel like I need to give my official greeting from my country and confirm that this is not a fake accent. This is a real accent.
No, it's not. We have the green card to actually prove it. Yeah, so yeah, for sure.
I am Australian. It's so funny. I've had so many people come to me and they're like, Maddie, are you actually Australian? Like, is that accent actually real? And I look at them kind of a little confused at first, and I'm like, yes, I promise you this is a real accent. I promise you I really am from down under. And then they kind of like tilt their head, squint their eyes, and they're like, okay, so tell me, how did you survive? How did you survive the scorpions and the spiders?
The box jellyfish.
Box jellyfish.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, scorpions, spiders, snakes, cool, yeah, got that. And then they're like, no, and then the zebras and the lions and the hyenas and the cheetahs. And I'm like, this is a test. They're testing me. They're testing to see whether or not I'm really Australian. And so I just wanted to confirm today there are no lions, cheetahs, hyenas in Australia. I am from Australia, not from Africa.
True. No, there's definitely...
I lived in Australia for about 23 years before I moved over to the USA.
And what did you study?
So prior to that, I was actually studying broadcast journalism. I worked at a television station for a hot minute. Absolutely loved it. I am very passionate about the truth. I just love the truth. I love knowing what's really going on. I mean, who wants to believe a lie?
Yeah.
And so I loved journalism in that regard, researching and fact-checking and finding out the true story. And so that's my background. I recently moved to Nashville, Tennessee about 2 years ago with the love of my life, Alec Bevere, sitting opposite me. And I love it. I love America. I love Americans. And it's been the biggest fun adventure I have ever been on with the biggest plot twist. I never thought that I'd marry an American, and I love it.
Hey, you know what? That was a solid intro. That was a solid intro, babe. Yeah, well, let me go right ahead and say, education-wise, I studied engineering. I studied engineering at the University of Colorado. And I also went for a bachelor's in innovation. It's funny, I don't really use my engineering one as much. Definitely use the Bachelor of Innovation. I still do. I was a creative director for years for an organization.
Extremely talented. Shout
thanks,
out.
babe. But absolutely loved it. But then I also even got into film. I really, really enjoy storytelling and just the whole art of storytelling and how it takes people on a journey. And
I'm a witness to that. Every day when he gets home from work, he's like, okay, I got to tell you about my day. And it's a whole story with like a plot twist, a climax.
Oh, man. Hey, well,
so I'm a witness to it.
Just why not have fun with it? And speaking of stories, actually, Maddie, years ago, somebody told me, they said, hey, Alec, every good story, they said every good speech either starts off with a story or with a quote. And so I think to start off this podcast, we should start off this podcast with a story. Like, why not? So the story is actually about me. So years ago, I was dating somebody, And things were going really, really well, and so well that I was like, you know what, I got to propose to this girl. So I went ahead and proposed to her, and things were great. We were getting ready for the wedding, and everything was great until it wasn't good.
Okay. FYI, for the record, this is not me.
No. This is, yeah, I definitely should have made that clear. This is not Maddie that I'm talking about here. But anyways, things were just not going well, and they were going so bad that actually I had to break the engagement. And it was a really just tough time in my life. And I don't know how this happened, but somehow all of like my family members had trips that were like set up during this time. And so all of my family members, they were all out of town, and they all just went out of town, and I was all by myself.
No.
And with things going bad with the engagement, I didn't really tell like any like my friends. And so I didn't really want to go and talk to any of like my friends and share what was going on. And I didn't have any family members to talk to. And I was just at like this just dark place in my life. And I was like, man, like this is so tough. What do I do? And then so I just decided one day, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna listen to the Bible. I'm like, I'm just gonna pick up the Bible. I'm just gonna start to read, and I'll probably just listen to it throughout like the day. So I started listening to the Bible, and I just started to get so intrigued with these stories. And I was like, wow, this is absolutely fascinating. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, this sounds like this one other story that coincides with this within history. Like, I wonder if history does like share anything, like if I could find anything in history about this. And I was just like, whoa, this is so fascinating. Actually, this story lines up with this. And actually you can look within this book and then it pairs up with this similarity. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I just started to just dive into things. I started to call people, ask people that I knew about different facts and different things about these different stories. And the Bible just came so alive to me. And I was like, whoa, this is incredible. But then I started to find out something, and I started to find out, and I just want to tease this right now. I think we wanted to share this later, but how much of an effect actually just listening to stories from the Bible and reading the Bible has on your life. So obviously now people know this podcast has something to do with the Bible, but it's not like a normal podcast in the sense of like, I don't know, like your normal Bible study where like people, they get preached at to, or like it's more just like sermons. It's more sermons. We were like, hey, what if we could do a podcast where we could find the most interesting facts? We could find the most interesting like side stories that actually go along with the main stories. What if we could find out certain things that were going on within history during this time, like actual cultural norms that like maybe people didn't know that actually are going on within this story that actually adds so much more context to the story? What if we could add way more context to the Bible? What would that do for people who are also going through hard times in their life?
It's crazy. There is just so much. It honestly feels like fear in our generation, and even
it's horrible right now.
The generation beneath us, below us, those who are a little bit younger than us.
Yeah, it's
crazy. Like, to your point about how people feel lonely and isolated, it's just crazy. Like, I mean, and it's commonly known, and I feel like people talk about this all the time, but as social media has brought us closer together as a people, we have never been so isolated because social media has been such a fake presentation of relationship. It's not real.
True. And then also on social media, we see so many crazy things now that like we've never seen before. Like we see like mass killings. We see horrible imagery. We see all these things that are just really like things that normally people wouldn't see unless they went to war. And then they had to even get, just like time away, or they had to get counseling after being at war. Like, we're seeing crazy things nowadays on social media. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but go on.
No, absolutely. No, and I think to your point, this is just the state of the world right now. There just seems to be a lot of darkness and a lot of heaviness. I mean, we've had wars, we've had conflicts, like the one in Ukraine and then in Israel, and I mean, solar flares that we had a couple months back.
That's
and
right.
Then,
if people were following that, that was a funny scare that people thought maybe the world might even catch on fire.
I feel like people were all mesmerized by the pretty like lights, but they didn't really actually know what was going on in terms of solar storms and the rest of it.
Man, it was nuts.
Yeah, and then we also had the plagues of cicadas. Like literally just the most random plagues.
That's the worst out of everything we just mentioned.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm
no,
kidding.
not at all.
No,
but
I
I
totally
mean, like
wasn't.
literally every crunch underfoot, you're like, that's not a leaf. It's not just pavement. That was a cicada. Like literally we would be walking in the park and it'd be crunch, 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 crunch. It was just crazy.
Accidentally murdering cicadas every day. And we did not mean to, but it was just happening.
They were just everywhere. But I did a little bit of research, and it's really interesting because I know what we're talking about right here. It's very real and it's very prevalent, to the point that 1 in 3 Americans are actually preparing for doomsday.
Yeah.
As in, they're preppers. Like, they have a room out back that they are stockpiling with food, with extra batteries, with radios.
They're literally preparing for end times.
Well, the end times, yeah. And I did a little bit of digging because I was so fascinated by this. I was like, wow, okay. So what we're feeling is real. Okay, so what do these people look like? Are they older? Do they have white hair? Do they wear, I don't know, like MAGA, Make America like great again? Like, where do they line politically?
Oh
like, I was looking at all of that because I was like, okay, like who are these people?
Yeah.
And when I did some digging, it's crazy. They actually, like 40%, which is nearly 1 in 2, are under the age of 28. And so it is literally our generation, Gen
Zers,
millennials that are preparing for this doomsday end of the world. They're the preppers. And so it goes to your point that there's a lot of fear right now and there's a lot of loneliness. And I know you did some stats
kind of like anxiousness too. And so,
yeah,
no, I mean, we're definitely hitting the nail on the head right now. So what was fascinating is the power that people can actually help themselves get out of these areas of feeling insecure, feeling lonely, just actually by being in the Word. Now, this is a fascinating study that we found. So check this out. People who are in the Bible 4 times a week. Now, actually, there is an interesting thing even about the 4 times. For some reason, if it was 1 time a week, there was actually really no change in someone's life. 2 times, basically the exact same. There was really no change. 3 times, there was a little bit of a difference in like their life. Like they'd be like a little bit better. But the study was fascinated with how 4 times a week, if people were either listening to or reading their Bible 4 times a week, these effects that it has on people's lives. Okay, so check this out, okay? The first one is this. People are 59%, so close to 60%, they're less likely to view pornography. Like already, like, wow.
It's crazy.
Almost 60% less likely to view pornography. Okay, 30% are less likely to struggle with loneliness. So there we go, boom. And then 57% are less likely to get drunk or intoxicated. That's incredible, 57, right? 68% are less likely to have sex outside of marriage. Like, that's incredible. Reading the Bible or listening to the Bible is something that will go right ahead and improve your relationship, improve your mental health, the way that you're interacting with other people. It'll change the way you even look at people, like people not wanting to even look at pornography. This is incredible. And we're like, wait a minute. So many people need the Word of God, but why are they not in the Word of God?
Yeah, because actually, you know, Gen Z, when we're talking about how like 40% are preparing for the end of the world, well, again, another 40%, but 40% of those Gen Z 18 to 24-year-olds who say and identify as Christians are like, yes, I am a Christian. 40% of them are not even reading their Bible 1 time a week. Like 0 times a week do they open up their Bible. 40%. That's nearly half of every Gen Zer who says that they're a Christian. And it's just crazy to me because exactly to your point, like, obviously, there are so many answers in the Word of God. I mean, it says that the Word of God is alive and active and sharper than any double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Like, it literally has the power to transform.
Oh, it's so powerful. And then so many people are saying that they want to be in it. Actually, what's that fact really quick that even you told me? Wasn't it like half?
It's actually 54% of Americans who are non-religious and religious. Doesn't matter where they lie on the religiosity scale. They're wherever they lie. 54% believe that we would be worse off without the Bible. And so that means, I guess if you want to flip it the other way around, 46% believe that we shouldn't have the Bible. 54% believe that we need the Bible. And that's
people who don't even believe in Jesus Christ, don't even believe in any of these things.
It doesn't matter where they lie.
That it would be better if we had the Bible. So here we go. We have so many people who are like, we need the Bible, but they're not in the Bible. But then the Bible is changing people's lives. So hence the podcast, because what we want to do is we want to actually bring together all of the fun aspects of the Bible. We want to bring together, as actually you've said before, we want to bring like all like the color into like the Bible, that like you don't have to look at it in just a black and white way. Like again,
it's not just words on the paper, it's infused with history.
Yeah.
It's got literary context, there's Arabic, there's just so many. It's like an onion. You peel off one layer and there's another one and another one and another one and another one.
And then there's also so many fun theories that like you can actually even talk about. There's all these fun theories. We even have gone and talked to some rabbis about some interesting things that were like, hey, what do you think about this passage? What is this? What does this mean? What is that? And there's so many fascinating things. They're like, oh no, wait, you don't know this. Check this out. This is actually going on in history at this time too. And we're like, what in the world?
Because this not just isn't historical, it's also Jewish. And so there is so much that even rabbis can bring to the table beyond like evangelical Christians, because it's so rich.
Yeah.
It's so old. It's an ancient text. And so it's so exciting. Like I'm going to nerd out for sure.
Oh, for sure. So guys, this is basically what we want to do. We want to make it so that we can read the Bible together. And as we're reading, we are going to share these interesting facts with you. So if you have always wanted to join a Bible study, guess what? You got it.
We want you to join
If you've
ours.
always wanted to go right ahead and hear crazy facts, but you don't want to go to seminary and have to, I don't know, spend tons of money and do that, or spend your time to do that. Like maybe you just can't do that with whatever position you are in your life. We want to try to bring that to you. We want to make it really fun. And so guys, that's Out of the Shallows. That's exactly the point of this podcast. We want to bring people into the deep end, per se. We want to get them out of the shallows. We want to go deep, but we want to make it really fun. And so guys, we are so excited that you have tuned in to this podcast. If this excites you, go right ahead, message us, tell us, or actually really quick, babe, but before I even wrap it up, is there anything else you want to say or no?
I think the only last thing I'd want to say is just like a tiny little disclaimer.
Oh, sure.
We are passionate, me particularly, about the truth. You too, but you're very passionate about story. And so we wanted to combine those passions, bring them together. We have elements of both within each of us. And so we wanted to bring them together. But in saying that, we are not ordained ministers.
No, we're not, which that means that we just can't marry somebody, right? Yeah. No.
So if you want us to marry you, we cannot marry you, but we do want to invite you into what we do privately, which is our Bible study.
But you're saying we're not ordained ministers in the sense of like, we're not actually pastors. And honestly, I think there's actually even some power within us just not being pastors.
Well,
but
we
anyways,
want people to know that this is accessible to anyone. And it doesn't
Correct.
matter what your age, where you're from,
Yeah.
your background, whether you've studied or whether you're not. I mean,
Whether
I've done
you're
a little
ordained
bit
or
of
not.
seminary,
Yeah.
and you haven't done seminary. I mean, like we bring different things to the table for sure, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, this was written to you. For you.
Yeah.
And the God of this whole universe, I mean, when you go looking for the God of the universe in the Bible, he's everywhere. And so it's so exciting even just to get to know him better. And so we're really excited to do this with you.
So guys, we're going to start off our first book, as in the first story that we're going to be diving into very, very soon in the very next episode.
You're going to tell them?
No, I'm not going to tell them because it's very easy for them to
Tease.
find out. All they have to do is just hit the next button or whatever. So
Subscribe.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, it's not. Just make sure you actually find the next episode. But yes, you are correct. Guys, if this is something that does excite you, please make sure you subscribe to this just so then you can actually go right ahead and you can actually get this into your inbox or wherever you actually like to listen. But we also want to hear your comments. We also want to hear feedback from people. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to jump into the very first book. So guys, get ready and let's dive right on into Out of the Shallows.